Okay, guys, I want to talk about work stoppages. Right now, I just read an article about a concern that may be happening in Florida that may affect 8 correctional facilities. But again, whatever happens at one facility could easily happen nationally. So we all have to be, we have to be notified of these concerns so we can maybe prevent. But work stoppages, protests, this has been a very big thing. It seems to be happening a lot more. There's a reason behind that, and I'll explain why when we come back from our sponsors. But I want to talk about basically how work stoppages and protests can affect the safety of the facility, the safety of staff. And I want to talk about justification and unity, because that's a big part of why that presents a danger to staff. So when we come back from our sponsors, I want to talk about inmate work stoppages. I want to talk about protests, and I want to talk about how it affects the safety of the overall facility, which deals with the population, staff, volunteers, and also ultimately a threat to the public. So stand by for our sponsors.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it, it's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Being a corrections officer takes its toll on even the strongest individuals. The constant need to perform at the highest level, putting your life at risk in a hostile environment, and the mental scarring of traumatic experiences. 31% of corrections officers show symptoms of PTSD, and 66% of people with PTSD also suffer with a substance abuse problem. The Transformations First Responders program is specially designed to help veterans and officers heal from the grips of addiction and PTSD in a comfortable, supportive, and serene setting. You are not alone. If you have questions about the services we offer, give us a call at 866-762-8454 to get more information on this affordable and life-changing program.
Okay, guys, so I got a chance to read an article by Corrections One, and it talks about possible inmate work stoppage in Florida, which could affect up to 8 facilities, and it talks about the demands that the inmates have, and obviously their attempt to protest being accepted by the public because there's actually support from the public. And I think the reason why we're seeing a rise in this lately is because of social media platforms. Okay, social media platforms seem to have a bigger voice for the inmate population, and they seem to aid in what it is that they need and kind of forget that, staff, we have rights. We have rights to be protected as well. But again, the changes that seem to be affecting correctional facilities all seem to be one-sided and also far removed from people who actually know what's really going on. It's crazy because the changes that are being initiated are from people who probably never walked inside a correctional facility. Now, having said that, we, staff, we have to take great concern when it comes to possible protests, which means that this video is not only meant to kind of talk about the issue, but meant to inform anybody that watches this. Hey, guys, make sure you tell somebody that there's a possible work stoppage that may happen in Florida because, again, they pick a holiday. I believe this may be Martin Luther King's birthday. So holidays are celebrated nationally. Could this be seen in other facilities? Possibly. So this is an effort to kind of get the word out there for people who don't follow up on what's happening inside the system. Now, the problem with protests with us, and especially with the public support, is that the inmates will find justification when the public supports their effort. Now, when an inmate feels justified, it's harder for us to control their actions. And what looks like a protest could turn out to be a lot worse, like a riot that may have happened in Delaware in February. So again, the public pushing to justify this protest will only motivate the inmates to follow through, but also will help the inmates unite, because through that justification, other inmates may say, hey, this may be a cause worthwhile, and then eventually what looks to be a simple protest may wind up being a riot in which all control is lost. And the public support for protest, what they don't realize is there are measures within the prison system, like a grievance, a system where inmates can grieve, that literally is meant to suit these concerns. And when inmates don't get the answer they want, well, that doesn't automatically or should not automatically give them the right to protest. They have a system in play that they are to utilize. And if they lose out on their argument or they lose out on their appeal, it is what it is. You know, we have a system in play. There's no need for them to take it to this level where you start to see inmates united, inmates feeling justified, because all that does is put staff at risk. And for these groups on the outside that support this, you're putting staff at risk. Because these social media platforms, when these numbers start to build, and these numbers that are building aren't people that are informed about the system, these are people that are biased against the system, but most likely they're biased because they have limited knowledge on what the system's about. This is going to motivate these inmates. So these platforms that show support, again, when this goes out of whack, because it will, you guys should be held responsible. Because at the end of the day, your support is going to lead to a group that's going to unify, they're going to organize, and they're going to pose a threat to the correctional facility. And when they pose a threat to the correctional facility, eventually it poses a threat to the public. It poses a threat to the public. And also, I want to go back now and talk about us, management. Have we become so dependent on inmate labor that this actually becomes a concern? Because see, the inmates know that we're dependent on them, and they're quick to say that this month's strike can cost the state millions of dollars. Well, that's partly our fault. We should never become dependent on inmates, because it will eventually be utilized against us. It's kind of like manipulation 101. Never accept a favor from an inmate, because favors lead to obligation. So now the inmates can utilize that against us. Hey, we stopped work. Guess what? You're out a couple $1 million. And here's the funny thing, money talks. So when people start seeing that money's being spent, or in their case, money being wasted, now we're going to have talks to address those concerns. But again, it's not about safety and security anymore. It's about money being saved. So we need to make it known, not just from the inside, but from the outside, that this type of actions will not be tolerated. You have a system on the inside to exhaust your grievances, and if that doesn't work, it is what it is. But for the public that supports this, you're supporting a possible potential for a riot, for someone to get hurt. They have a method to have their voices heard. When that doesn't work, that's it. That's their resolve. That's it. Game over. It's done. But you don't just go from, oh, hey, guess what? Our method, that method didn't work, so we're going to go ahead and protest it now. Wrong. And again, the public that supports that, this doesn't carry out the correct way, because it won't. You're going to be putting people at risk. So again, shame on the public for supporting this, but also shame on the system. Shame on the system for becoming so dependent on inmates that inmates know for a fact that, hey, if we stop doing work, guess what? We'll get heard. Because guess what? This facility's their inmate ran. And our work stoppage will cost the facility millions of dollars. And that's when people, when they start seeing money, that's when we'll get our concerns met. Again, nothing about safety and security, just about the fact that the facility will be bleeding money because the inmates will decide not to work. Again, dependence on inmate labor. This is what we've become. As always, guys, the show is Tier Talk. Love you guys. Stay safe.